What's the best video game soundtrack in your opinion? I really like Final Fantasy IX's and I really like Shadow of the Colossus. They're two that really stick with me. What's the dumbest thing you've ever done just so I can have a laugh? I have quite a repertoire of dumb things. I downed a bottle of vodka. It was about a third full. A third, like there was a third left in it. And I was getting pissed at a friend's house. And I don't like vodka, nor would I recommend anybody drink it. And for some reason, somebody said to me when I was in a slightly vulnerable drunken state, "Darn it!" when it had been passed my way. So I chugged all of it, and for the rest of the night I was a fucking mess. Cut all my hands on a broken bottle because the top of it wasn't right. And then a buddy of mine filmed me doing like circular death metal headbanging in the garden until I fell over and posted it on MySpace. So there you go. I both aged myself and embarrassed myself at the same time. That was pretty dumb. How long have I been playing games? I started playing games when I was 4. I'm now 28, so that's about 24 years. Congrats on reaching 25,000 subs. My question is, if there was one game that you think that everybody should play through at least once in their life, what would it be and why? I think it might be something like Ocarina of Time. I wasn't a big Link to the Past guy, because I was kind of young when I played it and I didn't get it. But Ocarina of Time for me was really special. It was almost like a coming of age. So that's one of those games that I think that if you played that at the right time in your life, Ocarina of the Time really stands out. So I would say that. Will we ever see a return of the podcast? I know the old Time Cop podcast was run with friends, but it would be cool to see you branch out on YouTube and form a new podcast with YouTubers or a similar mindset. I've been wanting to do this for a while, so that's something that's actually in the works, but it's tricky because getting people all to be on the same timeline and the same schedule can be an arsehole when everyone's busy. So I wouldn't hold your breath, but it's something I'm looking into. Did you ever play Dark Cloud Chronicle games on PS2? I did, yes. They were okay. I haven't got any crazy massive affection for them, but I remember them being solid. I never beat them, never played them too much, but I remember playing both Dark Cloud 1 and Dark Cloud 2. Then we got most embarrassing experience you've had. I'm not that easily embarrassed. That's my problem. I was once kegged, which is, I don't know if this is a universal term, but it is a slang for having your trousers and your pants, I suppose you would say, pulled down to expose full genitalia in a church when there was a sale going on, like a car boot type thing, like a fair where they were selling a bunch of random stuff. Me and this guy who I was hanging around with, who was a total fucking wrong'un, just thought it'd be funny to keg me. And back in those days I wore quite baggy t-shirts, so luckily enough my cock and balls weren't fully exposed to all the elderly ladies, but it was pretty funny. He liked it. I liked it lesser, but it was. I did see the humour to it. I wasn't really embarrassed, but I suppose somebody would find that embarrassing, so maybe that answers that. I've had an eventful younger life, so it can be hard to just pull it out. What made you start a YouTube channel? Do you plan on stop doing YouTube someday? I thought I could do it. I wanted to try doing it. I liked doing it. Do I plan on stopping? Maybe. I've thought about having breaks and focusing on other things. So where did my handle come from? Which I assume it means the name. It's my gamertag on the Xbox 360. And I popped it in that way because I couldn't have the one I wanted. Seraphim is, if you know your Bible, it is the highest order of angel. It is the ones that have 6 wings. It's the ones that were the warriors of God, basically. And 17's my favourite number. And I popped it on there because you needed a number. And I think Seraphim was taken. So it's a pretty boring story, but there it is. What are the 3 main things you would fix about the Soul series? Checkpoints, wonky detection, load times. Are you okay with IAP, microtransactions in games? Why or why not? I don't know what IAP is, dude. That's an acronym I do not know. But microtransactions are a necessary evil because of things like piracy and greed. We've gone over the greed thing again. Games are designed to make money. Games are incredibly competitive now, so it's more difficult to make money, and certain games rule the roost. So people have to think outside the box to compete and to continue to compete with these bigger titles. One of the biggest issues with games at the moment is that it's so expensive to make them. Everybody seems to think they need to have, a massive AAA budget to compete with the other massive AAA budgets. So a lot of games just don't even get made. When you look back to the older times where all kinds of games were getting made, it was because it was easier to fund them. So now one of the ways that these companies are trying to get a little bit more profit for themselves to fund these future actions is by things like DLC, season passes and microtransactions. And I don't think microtransactions are inherently bad or evil as long as they're done honestly and as long as the person knows what they're getting themselves into. Like, if you're buying something that can enrich your experience and make you enjoy the game more, how can you say that's a bad thing? If you believe it's hurting the industry and it's meaning that they focus on things in a different way, then I can understand you having problems with it. Like, my problem is a lot of DLC and microtransactions specifically now are things games used to have, so it's almost like they're fleecing things out of the main body to sell them to you later, and I think that that's an ugly design model, but it's a model that exists because of the way the industry is. And it's okay saying, well, if you don't buy it, it'll not propagate this to happen more, and they'll learn from this and it'll make things better. But just because you don't buy it doesn't mean the other 10 fucking million Goombas won't. So the whole abstain from buying it doesn't work, because if you abstain, it doesn't mean that 30 million other people aren't. Like, it has to be consensus or it doesn't work. So microtransactions aren't going anywhere. Hopefully they'll refine them and make them good, and I'm all for it if they are good, because I don't buy them, so it doesn't affect me. So I can't really complain, because I don't bother. What is the hardest game and the hardest game difficulty you've ever played? This is really a really, really tough question, because it's probably some kind of NES game, just because of how hard those games are. Like, games now are easy. We have no idea how hard games used to be, because games work now. That's the thing. Like, games, not only were they fucking brutal, but they didn't work. Try Hitman 1. Try getting a Silent Assassin on Hitman 1 on Professional or whatever the hardest difficulty is on the original PC version. It's like pulling fucking teeth. You have no idea how well games work until you go back. And it's insane. Like, look at just Resident Evil 0. Resident Evil 0 plays like the old school survival horror games. You can't aim on that game as well as you'd like to. You have to rely on the game to do it for you. It's fucking terrifying, and it's terrifying because you don't feel like you're in control, and that's what makes them hard. So, as far as hardest games, once again, it's probably like Soul or Jetman, something like that. Terminator 2, that fucking stupid driving section where you're trying to get John Connor and those doors are opening and shutting, that shit's impossible, man. Something like that. Because nowadays, games are easy. They've been easy for a long time, it's quite sad. What are some of your favourite animes beside Vampire Hunter D? I really like Cowboy Bebop. I was a massive Dragon Ball Z fan for a long time. I got big time into Outlaw Star at one point in my life. I didn't mind Neon Genesis. It's okay. I watched a bit of Blue Gender. I watched Trigun religiously for a while. Watched Gungrave when that was new. I really like Fist of the North Star. I'm a big fan of that. I don't really watch too much anime anymore. You know, I'm not averse to it again. I'll watch a good one if I can find one, but I don't stumble across it like I used to, which is a shame, but it's just the way life is. How many times do you play through a game on average before you do a walkthrough? Once. Sometimes none, if I'm confident I can do it, like it's a first-person shooter, something like that. Why has the Soulsborne series, Soulsborne, I don't think I like that word, become the gaming franchise of the 2010s decade that is the most widely recognised for its difficulty? You've said it yourself, and I agree with you that the Soulsborne games aren't nowhere near as hard as they are advertised, but both fans and official marketing. So why is it that they have taken this position? Why not games by Platinum? And that myself have said of harder. It's literally, as you mentioned, it's the fans and it's the marketing. Unfortunately, as games become more accessible for more people, the overall difficulty and learning curves in these games is going to suffer. That's been happening for quite some time now, and it's got to the point where games are easy. Games are even easy on the hardest difficulties. It's unfortunate, but it's true. The Souls games and all that kind of stuff aren't, and they don't hold your hand. And what is it? It's simple. It's a bunch of pampered people who immediately get invaded by North Korea and are told to dig and make a railroad. And then they're all kind of going, but this, I liked sitting on my sofa. I don't want to make a railroad. I don't want to dig this fucking hole or bang this steel. And then they can't do it because it sucks and it's hard, and it's that thing. It's hard work, and they've all been pampered and sat on arse, and they can't do it, and that's what it is. It's like those people who, oh, I'd love to run a marathon, but they'll not run 100 yards without a gun to their head. So how the fuck are they going to run, like, 24 miles? Like, you don't realise how hard it is to do that, you know? You watch these people do something, you're like, oh, I could do that if I tried. Yeah. It only took them 10 years to get that good at it. Like, shit's hard. And games aren't. So when a hard game comes along, or when it's a game that's not gonna... Here's a cutscene and 1,000,000 lives, and here's the best weapon in the game, here's this, here's that. When it forces you to play, and you don't have what it takes to play, and it goes, fuck you, you failed, instead of, here's a fucking medal and a reward for taking part, then people are gonna have a tough time with it. And all that's done is help hurt this series, because it's known for being hard, and it's not a good thing. But that's just what it is. So how would you feel if these Soulsborne games were made without a stamina system in mind? I think it'd be very interesting, because stamina management in these games is 100% the game, because you're always doing it. It's something you're doing so much you don't realise you're doing it. I think it would give it the potential to be a lot faster, and the potential for it to be a bit more combo driven and a bit crazier, but I don't know if it would suit it. And as you've said in the follow-up to this, I think the balance is a massive thing with that. I always thought they would do an arena, maybe on PC, maybe with a mod, where they took away the stamina, because I think it would be really interesting. Like, Martyr's Brigade used to hate fights where two people had the fucking Darkwood Grain Ring on and they would flip about a lot to try and fake each other out before attacking, and he used to really dislike that. But you can imagine that with the infinite stamina? Martyr would not be happy. Interesting though, but I doubt it'd ever be a thing. You've said repeatedly you will never do Ninja Gaiden 2 guide, but have you ever considered recording a casual run? Here's the truth about Ninja Gaiden 2. I don't like it that much. It's a great game, and I had a lot of fun with it once upon a time, but I'm done with it. Same way I'm done with God of War. I don't need to play it anymore, so it'd have to be a long time, because there's the majority of Ninja Gaiden 2 I don't enjoy. Because it's shit checkpoints, it's crappy jumping, it's rocket launcher people when you're running across fucking water and swimming and nonsense, and bosses that grab you every opportunity they get, and like, it's work, that game, to me, and it's why I've never really sang its praise outside of it's a fantastic game when you're first playing it. But me and Ninja Gaiden 2 had a love affair a very long time ago, and then we fell out. Ninja Gaiden 1, different story, because Ninja Gaiden 1 to me is Ninja Gaiden 2 without all the bullshit. There's still some there, but it's nowhere near as flagrant. There's always the chance I'll do something with Ninja Gaiden 2, but it'll probably involve streaming or something, because it's just not something I get an urge to play. Like, when I played those games, I played them hardcore. Like, I beat Warrior, Mentor, and Master Ninja in the space of about 5 days, back to back to back. And I got completely destroyed, but immersed at the same time. And then I beat it a bunch more times, and I got all the achievements, did all the weapon runs, and I kind of got it out of my system. Because I was never a Ninja Gaiden player, I was always a Devil May Cry player, and one thing you'll find with a lot of them is it doesn't really mix the mentality of those games. Like, you'll find that a lot of Ninja Gaiden players think Devil May Cry is harder. A lot of Devil May Cry players think Ninja Gaiden's harder because the games play so differently. And if you can play both of them at a high level, it's a big skill, because it's a completely different mindset. Why are Western video game developers so bad at making good boss fights? I think it's because people don't want boss fights, so they try to turn them into something that they're not. A boss fight, in my eyes, is intended to be a milestone. It's meant to take whatever you've learned up to that point and make you implement it to succeed, and to do so at a slightly higher expectation than you've been doing previously. If you can prove you can use the tools the game has taught you up to that point, you can succeed. And that's what they've always been, a gatekeeping tool to progress your skill level. Nowadays, they're a fucking cutscene and a QTE, nobody cares. So, they're doing everything they can to turn them into something weird, because they don't want to be that stereotypical Japanese boss, when there's nothing wrong with that. Like, look at Ninja Gaiden 3, great example. They did everything they could to that game to make it not like those games. They took away everything from it because they didn't want it to be that old school Japanese game design, when that's why we played those fucking games. Because say what you want about that kind of mentality towards design, it's specific and it's great if you like it. How old are you? I'm 28. Do you have a girlfriend? Still with your girlfriend? If so, for how long and how did you meet? I've been with my girlfriend now, I think it's about 9 years. I say 10 because it's easier. And I met her on MSN, talking to a friend of mine's sister. She was a friend of hers. Do you have a job outside of YouTube? If so, do you mind sharing? I don't at the moment, no, unfortunately. Do you live with parents or own your own house? I live with my parents at the moment. What are your goals and aspirations for the future? To be successful and not die. Do you go to the gym and have a good diet? I do not go to the gym and I have a terrible diet. What is your all-time favourite game? I've kind of answered that earlier, I can't really answer that. We'll say Dark Souls for the sake. What is your favourite gaming console? Probably the N64 or the PS2. Do you class yourself as an intelligent person? No. Who's your favourite YouTuber? Me. I don't know. Tough question. I don't really look at YouTubers like that. They're kind of like a slice of time that I invest myself with. I don't have any that I'm like, oh, I've got to watch. I used to, but they've kind of gone away. Like, I used to really like XCal, and then he stopped putting stuff on YouTube and went to Twitch, and then I've never followed him. Two things. Where are those naked pictures as part of the Patreon deal, and who would you go gay for? Don't believe I have any naked pictures in my Patreon deal, but there you go. I would go gay for a few people. I went through a Ryan Gosling phase. Harrison Ford would definitely tap that. Denzel Washington, he just gets better with age, like a fine wine. Congrats on 25,000 subs. I'm surprised you still only have that many with the quality content that you put out regularly. Answers to my question. Why do you punish yourself so badly while playing games? Always the hardest difficulty in doing the most insane tasks in a game. I love all your videos and you really help me out in Phantom Pain with the no trace runs, but why? Why not? I like to challenge myself, dude. I like to constantly feel like I'm improving, constantly feel like I'm evolving, constantly feel like I'm doing something more interesting, more advanced, and the best way to do that is challenge for me, to do the game at the hardest it can possibly be. Have the game have every single advantage and see if you can win. And to me, there's no greater joy in life, just like Conan said. You know, you got to hear the lamentations of the women, see them driven before you. What up, man? Huge fan. I was kind of curious. Since you take on these certain challenges in video games, like going the extra mile for an achievement or taking time to learn and understand a game so you can become good at it, what inspired this? Did a certain game spark this inside you, or have you always been like this? I don't know. It's a strange question that I didn't used to play games on hardest difficulties. I used to use cheats. I used to do everything that people do with games, you know? I used to look for the easy way out. I used to do insert I've done it, probably. It might have been achievements when I first figured out what achievements were, but then again before that, Devil May Cry forced me to play on harder difficulties, which preceded that, and so did God of War. I don't really know what it was. It might have been bragging rights. It might have been I've done this and it was hard. Have you done this? No? Haha, I have. I don't know. Like, I remember doing things on Final Fantasy like the super weapons and telling people, like, I beat this boss, and this boss is really hard. Have you beat this boss? They'd be like, what's a boss? And you're just like, well, it's fucking good. You should all adulate me. Like, I don't know. I honestly can't trace it back. At some point, something just kind of clicked that way, I guess. I've messaged you before and you've replied on Xbox, so cheers for that, mate. No worries, I'm not the biggest fan of people messaging on Xbox because it's awkward to reply to. I would prefer it on YouTube, but I do try to be polite when I can. I wonder if you remember, because I suggested a video where you discuss what your favourite games are / where. Is that were/r/were, I think. What better video to discuss it than your 25,000 subs? Well, the problem with something like that is it's a long video and it's ever changing. So there is no singular answer to it. I could have an entire video series because I'm just not that decisive when it comes to what I like and what I don't like, and especially favourites. Favourites are something that become difficult when you like things to the quantity that I like, so it's not the most realistic thing to do, dude. So instead I thought I'd do a Q&A, and we've just come to the end of it. So I'm looking at Audacity. We've been going for 2.5 hours. 2 hours and 40 minutes of me talking. Jesus Christ. I'll probably be splitting this up, but thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for the support and sending the questions. And if you've ever watched a video, commented, liked it, just applied yourself and followed and supported and all that great stuff, it means more than you could ever truly understand. So sincerely from me, thank you very much.